Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double 18 podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Nagishi. To my right on your screen is my co-host, the associate editor of sports blog Awful Announcing. It is the associate editor, Ken Fang. And Ken, thanks for joining us once again. And happy Sunday to you. I hope you had a wonderful week. And how are things with you today?
Oh, good, Stephen. Good to be on with you. It's even though it's the dog's days of summer, sports media news never seems to end, and we also have stuff going on with the NFL preseason. A lot of games on yesterday. Your Bears are
Yeah.
going to be playing in prime time tonight. So, and then we have one more game, a Monday night game tomorrow. So it's going to be interesting to watch, and we'll all keep track of it.
Absolutely, yeah. This is one reason why I'm doing the podcast a little bit early because the Bears are going to be on preseason. They're going to be featured on Fox tonight, all across the country. I'm assuming this is the one that Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady are doing.
No, it's going to be Joe Davis, and it's going to be Greg Olsen tonight.
Oh, the number 2 team. Okay, well, that's still better. Okay.
Yep.
Not a knock against the other Fox 3, 4, and 5. Play-by-play color analyst teams, but it's certainly a game of pretty important magnitude. The Bears more than likely will play the almost the entire starter for at least a play or two. After Caleb Williams not getting a single snap last week, opting to do the joint practice with the Dolphins. They had the same one with the Buffalo Bills this week, and this is going to be a very good test of going up against the legitimate Super Bowl contending team. So hopefully, it will be a very good performance, even though there will be some ups and downs that myself and other Bears fans would have to learn to, accept and be calm about it. So. Yeah, all right, Ken, let's move on. Oh, go ahead. I apologize.
I know that you said that Ben Johnson's going to be playing a lot of the starters. Do you expect him to start for most of the first half, or is it going to be for one series and out?
As for Caleb Williams, I think maybe first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
If all goes well. I expect some, a lot of handoffs, just to kind of keep him upright. Because the left tackle situation is a bit of a crisis right now.
Right.
Because they're down. They're even putting in third stringer Theo Bennett, the Canadian undrafted free agent, who was a kind of enjoyed the cult hero status with the Hard Knocks last year. For those who are not, who still remember. So it would be interesting to see how long they're going to put him in there and how long they're going to play based on who's at the left tackle. I'm sure Braxton Jones, the incumbent starter, really has to step up after looking a little bit shaky against Miami, and offensive line coach Dan Rochar was as blunt when it comes to his performance. And I wrote my article on beargoggleson.com, and certainly it puts pressure on general manager Ryan Poles for trying to get the right solution. Of course, he fixed the interior offensive line, but now the tackle position is a bit of a iffy right now. So that has to be cleaned up immediately. All right.
Right.
Let's start off with the our first topic of the day. The NCAA finally leveled a punishment toward the University of Michigan for their involvement with the the sign stealing and everything that came with it. They won a national title in 2023, which was, of course, now known as the the Connor Stallion, sign gators, whatever you want to call it. This is how we learned firsthand about who Connor Stallions is and what was his involvement with the Michigan program and his role with the the sign stealing that took place for 2021 through 2023. As you mentioned there in the title there, Ken, the NCAA basically just gave Michigan a slap in the wrist with their punishment with what they did. For almost 2-3 years, this was kind of maybe this was probably for 2 years. This was kind of an ongoing situation when it comes to the NCAA's involvement in the punishment and investigation that they kind of came up with. And I'm about to put up share a screen on your website about sports media's reaction to this punishment. Here's the details of the punishment here, as you can probably see here. Let me see if this would be shared right now. 4 years of probation, $50,000 fine, 10%, plus 10% of the budget for the football program. A fine equivalent of the anticipated loss of all preseason competition revenue sharing associated with the 25 and 26 football season. 14 weeks probation on recruiting communications in the football program. 25% reductions on the football official visits. Former assistant Connor Stallions, 8-year show clause order restricting him from all athletically related activities during the show clause. So that means he can't get a NCAA football job for the 8-year period. Head coach Jim Harbaugh, former head coach Jim Harbaugh, I should say now with the LA Chargers, 10-year show clause order. Obviously, it's hard to believe that Jim Harbaugh would ever, come back to coach another college football game since he took the Chargers job anyway. And now with this one, obviously, I think it's safe to say that the Chargers job could very well be his last job since he's, getting up there in age-wise. And then the current head coach, Sharon Moore, which he gets a 2-year two-game suspension, I believe, starting this year, and then a 1-game suspension in 2026, which I have no idea what this is. And obviously, again, it's a slap in the wrist. Normally there are other high-profile programs in football like USC, involving Reggie Bush taking money. Of course, this was well before 20 years ago when NIL was still not in place at the time at all. They vacated wins and championships, and Reggie Bush, I believe, lost the Heisman title, so forth.
Right.
And this was not limited to football, but of course it also has extended to basketball, where I believe University of Memphis, when John Calipari was coaching, Derrick Rose spent his only season there, went to the NCAA finals where they lost to Kansas. I think there was a recruiting violation involving him there as well, that they've ended up vacating that wins and, so forth. There has been something far more severe in the past. You could go back to the 80s when SMU was given the death penalty and crippled the program for such a long, long time. And since then, the NCAA has never given anything so severe. And this was, kind of puts the question mark of, why it was so, less severe. And I think the outcry from the media side is well documented. It was basically slap in a wrist. You could cheat, and then you could still keep your championships, and that's the impression that I think a lot of people are getting nowadays. And it's understandable the outrage that the media is giving with regards to the punishment. It was basically a slap in the wrist, like you said, it isn't severe enough in the eyes of many people, whether you're a non-Michigan fan or if you're for Ohio State or other programs that this has a disdain towards Michigan, and it does kind of question what is NCAA and its existence moving forward, because we know that a lot of schools are wielding their power, and there were talks this week that the Big Ten wants 24 or 28 playoff teams, which sounds preposterous, but you knew this was actually coming one way or another. So it's quite clear that most programs would rather do away with NCAA or just break away and form of their own league slash conference office and have their own set of rules. And I think this Michigan ruling, unfortunately, further puts a pressure on NCAA and its inability to have an institutional control. And I think it's kind of like put not a final nail to the coffin, Ken, but it kind of puts NCAA closer to irrelevancy. What do you think?
Well, it just goes to show to me that, Stephen, that the NCAA has no power over college football. They don't. They have no. The penalty they gave to Michigan is rather obvious to me that the NCAA is just allowing the SEC and the Big Ten to run amok in college football. They're the powers. They're going to basically, as you mentioned, get the the proposal of getting most of the teams in the college football playoff. They're going to eliminate the college football conference games. They're basically obsolete anyway. But to me, it just goes to show you, Stephen, that even though Charlie Baker is a stronger leader in the NCAA, one of the stronger ones that they've had in a long time, as far as college football is concerned, he has no power over it. It's the fact that the Big Ten and the SEC have the power. They're the ones that are running it, and eventually we're probably going to see some relegation type in college football in the bowl subdivision. I really think so, Stephen, that the NCAA, as you mentioned, is getting irrelevant. The only thing it has power over is the NCAA tournament, and I think eventually that's where it's going to lie. I think the NCAA is just going to say, the college presidents are going to say, look, you run the tournament, you run the basketball tournaments, the men's and women's tournaments, we'll run everything else. And I think that's where it's going to be headed, Stephen, because NIL has changed everything. And I believe that we're going to be seeing the Big Ten and the SEC running things pretty much from now on.
I kind of agree. I'm sorry. I heard a bit of a noise there. I thought maybe your line was cut off there. My apologies there.
No, there's something happening in this. There's a truck that's backing up near my driveway. So sorry about that.
Okay. No problem. Yeah, I can see the outrage from all kinds of people, who are showing their disdain. Obviously, Anthony Lima from 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland, which I'm sure you're very familiar with. There will never be a reference of Michigan's national championship without somebody bringing up the Chiefs game. That's their punishment. Obviously, they get to maintain their, national title that they won in 2023. But again, it does somewhat come with the asterisks. I guess, maybe that might be a punishment of its own. And, it's understandable. They're tainted, unfortunately, forever. It's kind of ridiculous, that it's kind of ridiculous that of all the years that NCAA spent in the investigation, it's unfortunate that the players. I don't think there were many players who are heavily involved in this cheating scandal. It's just that basically the coaches and the higher ups did this, and it's the players who, I like to think that they're innocent in all of this, has to pay the price because of their title is now completely tainted. That is a punishment that's, some will say it's a punishment that seems to be very, very, harsh on its own. But, again, this does not make NCAA, puts them in a positive spin. And I do believe that, Ken. I think that, moving forward, I think NCAA, again, puts a severe credibility problem, and this Michigan punishment that they doled out, it don't do any justice for Michigan for what they did, as well as the NCAA and their reputation.
Well, let's put it this way: the NCAA really hasn't had power over college football since the 1990s, when the SEC and basically about going back to the Supreme Court decision in the 1980s, which declared the NCAA an illegal monopoly over college football. That's when the conferences began to get power. They began to negotiate their own contracts. Well, we had the CFA first, which broke off the SEC, the Big Ten, the major power conferences, and the Big Ten and Pac-12, at the time, the Big Ten and the Pac-10 had their own TV contracts. And then in the 90s, it began piecemeal when CBS had a contract with the SEC and Big East, and then ABC was able to get the other conferences like the Big Ten and Pac-12 and the Big 12. So since around the 90s or so, the NCAA has had no power, no jurisdiction over college football. They've had no college. They can't strip a title because there was the college football. So there was the college football playoff. There was the titles. So anything that the NCAA could do to have any jurisdiction over college football, they've lost since the Supreme Court decision, Stephen. So you go back there and you continue with that. It goes to show that the NCAA just really has no power. It can strip a title in the NCAA tournament for basketball. It can strip a title for Olympic sports. But as far as college football concerned, they can't do it. I mean, they could do it for, let's say, the lower divisions, the football championship division, because they run that playoff. But as far as the Power 5 conferences, they have no power whatsoever. So if anyone was thinking that they were going to strip Michigan's title, they have to think they have something else coming. So they just don't understand the college sports landscape right now. The NCAA just doesn't have any power to do anything severe or harsh against Michigan. People said, well, could they do the death penalty? That would have been so challenged so quickly in the court, Stephen, that the NCAA would not have been able to hold on to that. So, unfortunately, this is the best they could do. They have no power over college football, a major college football. There's no way that they could have done anything. And they look rather toothless, and it's going to continue this way. And like I said, it's going to be the Big Ten and the SEC that are going to have power over college football. The NCAA may have power over the smaller colleges like the Ivy League and the division and the football championship division. But I have a feeling that they could probably find a way to split off as well. So leaving the NCAA only having power over basketball and Olympic sports, and baseball and softball. So, that's where it's headed, Stephen. And I think it's sad about the NCAA, but I think to be honest with you, there's nothing they really could have done in regards to Michigan.
Well, speaking of suing, I believe Michigan is going to fight this charge. Obviously, paying $20 million in the context of things. It's still a lot of money. Maybe a fraction of what most of the most money that they make, budget wise on the athletic budget. But again, they're going to fight over the decision. Obviously, this is not going to end anytime soon, and who knows how long this is going to go on. You know, uh, it might go all the way to the Supreme Court for all we know. But if they, if both sides wants to duke it out as long as possible. But at the end of the day, the punishment certainly does not fit the crime, as people would like to say, and the outrage is certainly palpable. It's certainly a slap in the wrist. The titles weren't taken away, and people have every right to be upset about this. So I am definitely feeling about the Michigan fans who are probably feeling I don't know how many of them feel that they're vindicated about this. Maybe only hardcore fans would feel that way, but obviously the national title that they won 2 years ago does come with an asterisk now, unfortunately. So at least the chapter, the saga is over, but the real battle, probably more than likely between both Michigan and the NCAA, will likely wage on further. I don't know if there's going to be any more bloodshed be shed. Will there be any people getting fined, suspended, or lose their jobs moving forward? But we'll see how long this battle will continue between both sides moving forward.
By the way, thank you to Michael for reposting our stream. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Michael. Yeah, I posted that one as well. All right, let's move on to the next big story. UFC signed a mega deal with Paramount Plus, moving, I believe, this past week, 7 years, $7.7 billion. Correct me on this, Ken, if I missed. Okay. So this puts the end on the pay-per-view model that both UFC and boxing has kind of implemented for a long time. Boxing, the Zone, DAZN, the Zone, recently also announced a similar model. The Turki Al-Sheikh, obviously the head of Saudi Arabia's General Entertainment Authority, has been flexing his muscles when it comes to boxing in recent years with the Riyadh seasons. Of course, Riyadh is where WWE also holds their pay-per-view annually as well. I forgot the name of it, but obviously Saudi Arabia.
It was called Crown Jewel. It was called Crown
Yes, thank
Jewel,
you.
but it's going to be that event's going to be held in Australia this year. But they're going to get the Royal Rumble next year, Stephen. But I'll be honest with you. They're trying to make it's called Riyadh Championship Season, as you're well aware. They're trying to hold a big weekend where they have a lot of championships: golf, tennis, boxing, UFC, also WWE. They're trying to make it a big deal to get tourists over, but this doesn't excuse the whitewashing, the sports washing that they're doing over. If you remember the Khashoggi assassination a few years back during the first Trump administration. So, but anyway, Let's go back. We're sidetracking. Go right ahead.
Obviously, with the pay-per-view model being completely gone in the fight, the MMAs and boxing, is the pay-per-view model officially dead in your opinion,
Yes.
Ken?
Yes, I mean, WWE hasn't done a pay-per-view. They put their premium live events for no extra charge on Peacock. They're going to do the same thing for ESPN. We mentioned that last week. They know that they're not dependent on cable and satellite providers anymore. They just know their fans can go to a website, to Peacock, to the streaming service, get their PLEs. Same thing with Netflix International. And next year they're going to be on ESPN, the streaming service, for $29.99 a month, but no extra for the PLEs. So UFC signed a deal with the Paramount Plus. They have been charging $29.99 or something, or something even higher than that for their numbered fights, especially 319, which was just happened yesterday. But to be honest with you, I don't think fans. I think fans are tired of it, Steven. They're saying, look,
Yeah.
if I spend $12.99 a month, why do I have to spend another $30 extra for a premium live event or a pay per
Right,
view?
or even $100, depending on the
Yeah, on
what kind
boxing.
of what kind of event, what kind of a
Yeah,
card, who's fighting, etc., etc. Yeah, I
right.
mean the fans have been being ripped off for far too long. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Ken.
And so what Paramount did, and I give credit to David Ellison, who the Paramount deal just closed a couple of weeks ago. So they already pretty much had a verbal agreement with the TKO Group, the owner of UFC, for the fight nights. Those are the ones that had been free for not free, but no extra charge for ESPN Plus for a long time. Now, and the numbered fights were going to go somewhere else. So it was going to be the TKO was going to split the media rights amongst multiple parties. But then David Ellison said, look, we want the whole thing. We want people to come to Paramount Plus, not only just for the free fights, but we also want them to come for the numbered fights as well. But we don't want to charge them extra. And how about this? You'll get extra on some of those numbered fights. We'll also simulcast on CBS. So that'll bring the more exposure to your fights. And I think that was a good move by TKO and by CBS to make this type of move. So that means that everything, the numbered fights, the fight nights, no word on the programming like the Ultimate Fighter, whether that will go to Paramount. But at least for this part, all the fights will be seen streaming on Paramount Plus. Whether you like Paramount Plus, whether it's streaming, I don't know. But this is going to add a younger element to it. Actually, believe it or not, they are third behind Netflix and Disney Plus for streaming. So while you think third is great, the numbers are kind of small. So to get a younger audience, to get younger is what David Ellison wanted for, and it's a big deal for them. $7.7 billion, as you mentioned, over a 7-year period, Stephen. Also, you have, as I mentioned, some of those numbered fights are going to be simulcast on CBS, bringing even a wider audience. And don't forget, CBS was the first network to air an MMA fight with Kimbo Slice back in 2008. So this is a big deal, and it also puts CBS as a major player, Paramount and CBS as a major player in sports media once again. David Ellison, knowing that there wasn't going to be too much in sports rights coming up. There's Major League Baseball coming up in 2027, I think, but I believe, and of course the NFL in 2029-30. So there wasn't much. So Paramount needed to make a splash, and it was a big thing. And as you mentioned, the pay-per-view model is over. It's obsolete. A lot of these sports leagues don't go to pay-per-view anymore. They just go to a streaming service and say, hey, look, you're already paying your money. There's no reason for us to be charging extra. And I think it's a good move because, as you mentioned, fans are getting it's already ridiculous that we have to go to multiple streaming services to find the NFL, to find the NBA, to find the NHL, to find the WWE. And now the UFC, but at least you're not going to get charged extra. You're already paying your money, so this is where the UFC is going to go, and good on them for not deciding to get rid of the pay-per-view model.
Now, a couple of things to add here. When it comes to the zone model, this is applicable for their Riyadh season and the boxing magazine, The Ring events, starting in November. So it's not immediately just yet. So whatever you've been watching, like I have, boxing on ESPN involving the Bob Arum's promotion company. Top Rank. Thank you very much. Which I've enjoyed thoroughly over these years. Unfortunately, it's coming to an end. I believe this month
it already expired.
It already expired. I thought it was this month, but unfortunately, it was last month that it officially expired. So, it's unfortunate that maybe the boxing and mainstream media, which obviously we know that has been dying, and you had maybe a pay-per-view model to kind of keep it afloat. Now that model itself is gone, it's interesting to see where Top Rank will go. There hasn't been Amazon or Peacock or on other streaming services, Top Rank has to find its way to stay relevant.
Right.
They have a good stable of boxers who are world champions and ranked high in pound for pound. But with the zone wielding its muscle moving forward, I think it will be very interesting to see if more and more boxers decide to leave their promotions, especially the ones in Top Rank, and ended up bolting to the zone. Because the money will be plenty, and then there will be more main cards, put together by the zone. The zone and its people will likely wield its muscle in the boxing world, and it will be interesting to see, Top Rank and other, small to mid-size promotions, how they, how they counter react, or what will the boxers who are on Top Rank and other smaller mid-size promotions will feel about boxing not being on regular televisions here in the United States moving forward. And we also touched on this last week, Ken, about the NFL with their ESPN deal. We touched on this last week. The worst case scenario, of course, is that maybe the NFL might start to sell off individual games, which obviously is kind of like akin to a pay-per-view model of the specific team-specific games that you want to watch. I kind of find it interesting that maybe NFL's kind of maybe veering toward that side, while the boxing and the other, martial arts sports that relied heavily on pay-per-view models is trying to get rid of it. What do you think?
Well, first of all, let's also mention that Bob Arum is 93 years old. He's very old. So I don't know how much control he's going to be having on Top Rank in the future. I mean, he's had it since, I think he's had it since the 80s, Stephen. Back then, I remember I talked to him in an interview, by the way, a couple of times. He's a guy that, well, there's no doubt he's smart. There's no doubt about that. As a promoter, he's done a lot of things for boxing, but also let's not forget he's in his 90s, and how long is he going to be able to keep Top Rank going? So that's another thing. The zone is now very aggressive. It used to be HBO and Showtime versus Showtime for boxing, but both channels have gotten out of the business. HBO was very much with Top Rank, and then Showtime was with the Premier Boxing Champions. So
Yeah.
They were pretty much going at it with trying to get premier events. And of course, Mike Tyson was with Showtime, and of course, Canelo before he went to Top Rank, before he went to DAZN, was with Top Rank. So it's now very interesting to see where it's going right now, Stephen. It's all streaming. Top Rank has to really worry about whether it's good, as you mentioned, its relevance. Boxing needs something new. It has always been since the 90s, when we used to have major fights almost every week or every month. We knew where the players were. We always knew. I mean, it was Tyson, it was Holyfield, it was Buster Douglas. We knew the names, we knew everything, and then we had Mickey Ward coming in the 2000s. HBO was really big on that, and we had great, World Championship Boxing on HBO. We had Showtime Championship Boxing, and then we had HBO Boxing After Dark. We knew the players, Stephen. We knew everybody. If you had both channels, it was great to watch. But now it's a situation where boxing has gotten older. The age range, I mean, it's almost, remember, like horse racing. Horse racing used to be very popular. Now it's a point where it's so old that it's the demographics are so old, is that when I go there, I'm in my 60s, someone calls me, "Hey kid, what are you doing over here?" So because an 85-year-old guy is watching horse racing. So boxing's got to find its footing. It's got to find a voice again. The zone is helping, but it's not finding a relevant footing here in the United States as of yet. It's done quite well in Europe, where it has rights, where it's like it may have rights to soccer rights, Bundesliga, also boxing all over Europe, but it still has to yet find a footing here in the United States. And until it does, boxing is right now circling the drains. They really have no place to go, because when Top Rank lost ESPN, that was a big blow. And where it's going to go now, that's a good question.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an interesting time. It seems as though, one side is trying to move away, completely getting rid of the pay-per-view, whereas the NFL maybe are trying to do the the pay-per-view model for individual games and for individual teams. It's interesting. Boxing has kind of obviously, it's comparing apples to oranges to a lot of people. So obviously, I'm sure there will be people like, well, how the hell are you going to compare NFL versus boxing, a dying sports, et cetera, et cetera. It's interesting, certainly, but I don't know, if you and I are forced to pay, you being the Browns fans and me being a Bears fans, and I have to force to pay, I don't know, $4.99, $5.99. Or even $7.99 for, say, Monday Night Football game, or $10.99 for the for playoffs or Super Bowl games, etc. I don't think neither one of us would feel good about paying individual games on a regular basis, right?
Yeah, I think what the NFL, and I think that's what people are asking for, is a season package for their especially if they're out of market. Like, I'm not in Cleveland, but I would love to, instead of being able to have to buy the entire Sunday ticket package, could I buy the entire season of Browns games, so I wouldn't have to worry about seeing the other teams. I mean, yeah, it's great to have the Sunday ticket, but there are times when I just want to see my Browns and also have NFL Red Zone on my two TVs. I mean, I think that's where the NFL is being also sued in an antitrust lawsuit in regards to Sunday tickets. So I think they're going to have to do a settlement, and I think that's where it's going to come to, Steve. I don't think we're going to see a per game package. The NBA is doing that. It hasn't been too successful. So I think that if they sell a season package, let's say you want to see your Bears while you're in Detroit, and they sell you a package of games like that, maybe $79.99 for the season. I don't know if that's the cost, but maybe I'm just pulling that out of my head. Maybe that's someone says, that's affordable. I can do $80 for 16 games, or 17 games, or maybe 18 games, as the case may be. If they go, like, say, $150, then maybe that's, or $149.99, maybe that's not so affordable. If they have to find a way to make that affordable, but I think that's where we're going to be headed. I don't think they're going to do a per game model, but I do think they will do a season package for an out of market team.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. All right, let's move on to the next subject. Taylor Swift joined the New Heights podcast this week. The New Heights podcast, for those who are not familiar, which obviously probably know by now, is the podcast hosted by the Kelsey brothers, Jason and Travis, which has been one of the wildly, I should say, successful podcasts, started by the athletes, those current and former, or in this case, Jason retired more than a year ago, of course, and Taylor Swift, who is the love interest of Jason's younger brother Travis, joined to talk about it. And Taylor was obviously, I think, more talkative and more felt at home being at obviously Travis's podcast. Kind of showed the different side of her. Talking about football, and then obviously about talking about music and taking back her creative control and buying back the masters, etc., etc. I only had caught the glimpse of it, but obviously there are some negative people out there. Obviously, whether it's Taylor or Travis, or even both of them.
Or even Jason Kelsey, because of his overexposure.
Yes, in a more banterful way there. But your thoughts on the New Heights podcast with Taylor Swift this week, and what did it kind of reveal itself in your opinion out there this week?
Well, it was interesting. Now, also, it was on YouTube, Stephen, and there was 1.3 million concurrent streams. And right about the 40 minute, they were going 2 hours. but right about the 1 hour 40-minute mark, it cut off, and and YouTube went down. Now, what's coming up in a couple of weeks, Stephen? The NFL has an event coming up. They have their Brazil game, which is going to be streamed on YouTube. That doesn't
And
bode
it's free too. It's a free.
it is going to be. It's going to be no extra cost, but that doesn't bode well. If you're going to be doing this streaming now, this also remember last year when Netflix had a boxing event, the Tyson Paul event, and it didn't do well, and everyone's thinking, well, is this going to happen for what's going to happen for Netflix? Well, they had a couple of months to get it right. They did it in August of last year. Their streaming for the NFL wasn't going to happen until December. Now, but this situation, YouTube has the infrastructure. It's not like they haven't. They've been doing this since 2009, Stephen, and doing live streaming for several years now. You have a situation like this. If 1.3 million streams is going to knock out a podcast, what's it going to take to knock out the NFL game if that happens? I'm sure that Google's going to be ready and working on this, and the NFL is going to be watching too. But let's just put it this. Aside from that, I enjoyed it. I watched a good portion of it. I watched about an hour before it went down, but it just cut off right at the 1 hour 40-minute mark because of the situation with the streams. But I have to say, Taylor was wonderful. And again, if you don't like Taylor, that's on you. It's not much more on you than it is on anything. She and Travis are obviously in love. They talked about how they got together. She also talked, and you know what? I give her credit. She became a football fan really, really fast. Stephen, she can talk about the Kansas City Chiefs really well. And she also mocked Michigan too in regards to that. So I got to give her credit. She's become she wasn't a football fan before she got to with Travis. But now she got there. She knows everything. She knows the players. She knows, she talks about Andy Reid, about how much he helped them get together. She jokingly said that he helped hook them up together. But I got to give her credit. She goes to the games. She mentioned the very first game she went to, Stephen. Instead of, how we always see video of her walking into every stadium on her own, she walked into the first game with the fans and had the fans know, and she just gave her ticket to a ticket taker. She said she just at the time she had a mask on, but she also had just wore a hood and just walked in. Had someone recognized her? Can you imagine the commotion of her going into that very first game through the gates of the regular gates? That was pretty funny, but I got to say, I give her credit. And she was vulnerable. She talked about how emotional it was to get her Masters back. She also talked about how she has a great respect for football players. And Travis talked about the respect that she has, the athleticism she does for her, doing 3 hours concerts every night, especially during the Eras tour. So I got to give credit. She was open. She was relaxed. She had fun. And Jason was a great host. He's asking the right questions. Was it journalism? No, it's not going to be a hard-hitting thing. But I got credit for Taylor for being just totally relaxed, being herself, talking about her record. She also talked about the new album that she was going to release in October 3rd called Diary of a Showgirl, the 12 tracks from it. So I give her a lot of credit for going on, being open and being vulnerable. And it was a fun podcast, and I enjoy. I'm not a. Do I listen to Taylor Swift's music? Not all the time. I mean, I do know some of her more popular songs, but I got to give her credit. I enjoyed the podcast, and I thought she was great.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think she showed the other side of her that when she's not performing, and their relationship certainly has outlasted more than any of us have ever predicted.
Right.
I think some people were thinking about maybe it was there going to be like a live proposal and stuff like that, which obviously did not happen. Who knows where this relationship is going to go? But for her to even consider coming on to openly talk about football and other stuff, let the haters hate, certainly, and for her to be very upfront and be talkative was certainly, I think, And like you said, she had loads of fun, and I think a lot of Taylor Swift fans, of course, probably enjoyed that as much as regular sports guys like you and I did as well. And certainly, there's no need to hate about her appearance on the New Heights. I think it would just make it even more popular. And who knows, maybe in another time, uh, this could be another appearances by her in the near future as well, depending on her schedule. If there's any more tours or any more recording, etc., etc. So I thought this was a very good foray into her world. Not just as a singer and an entertainer, but on a regular basis. About her life and her being an artist and having the importance of creative control back in her life, etc. So I thought this was a very good, podcast appearance
Yeah, and
by
let's
her.
just put it out there. Not that it's going to happen, but she has an open invitation to join the AA team at any time. Anytime she can join us. We may have trouble with the YouTube since we are on YouTube also.
Mhm.
We just want to warn Google that if she does come on, she's not going to come on. But let's say she does come on, get your engineers ready because we don't want to break YouTube, just like the But I got to say, her appearance, of course, broke the previous record, which is also the Kelseys, when Jason's wife joined them and
Yeah.
talked on the Kelseys podcast. That was the last previous record. But I got to say that anything with Taylor Swift is going to get a lot of buzz, and the fact that they teased the fact that she was going to talk about Diary of a Showgirl a few days ahead of time. But you know what? I said, let me just see how this goes. And I was 10 minutes into the podcast. I was just really enjoying it. So I thought it was a fun time. And, I would love to see Taylor on other podcasts down the line, whether she joins All the Smoke, which is a very popular podcast on the DraftKings network, or if
Yeah.
she joins Dan Lebertard's show, or if she joins the Dan Patrick show, whatever she wants to join. I think she'd be a great addition to the podcast world.
Absolutely. All right, Ken. Let's move on to our final word segment. We're going to try and talk about the stuff that we've been thinking about, or been on our minds, sports or non-sports related stuff. I'll give you the first stage. What is on your mind?
Well, earlier this week, NFL on CBS had its media day, which is last week on Tuesday. They announced the addition of a new pregame show called the NFL Today Plus, which will stream exclusively on Paramount Plus. But also, we at Awful Announcing found out, and I give credit to Drew Lerner for finding out, that CBS is going to cancel that other pregame show, which had been airing over the last 4 years on CBS Sports Network, which is hosted by Adam Shine. Had various guests. They also had people from the NFL Today coming on. But Amy Trask, a good friend of this podcast, was a regular panelist on there. She would be on for the first 3 hours and then leave at noon. The last few years, she had been appearing live from the West Coast, not going into New York. Amy, I don't know if she's going to be continuing with CBS. She is still on What the Football podcast with the Rich Eisen Network. I believe that podcast actually is going to be on part of the ESPN streaming service. So I think that is great to see. But certainly Amy, who has been a great addition. Here's a person, Stephen, who used to avoid the media at all costs, became an analyst, a very good one. And the fact that she had her experience as the president of the Raiders, working with Al Davis and giving us, and she was on a couple of times with us, and we hope to have her on again, giving insight to the NFL and what it's like to be as an executive. I don't know if she's going to continue, but I would like to see that the NFL Today use Amy, if she's not going to be a regular, but at least on a part-time basis. But it's sad to see that other pregame show go. But Amy Trask, she's welcome here on any time, and she's a friend of the program. Stephen, I know you've talked to her a couple times too. So fantastic person, and very sad to see that that other pregame show's cancellation. And like I said, we hope that Amy will continue with CBS going forward.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We had her on our show before, albeit it was for 30 minutes, but we would definitely love to have her on again at some point, during the football season, talk about, how she's coping without the show and what she's been up to moving forward. Okay. My final word is that, the one Christian Pulisic, which you and I have long complained about during the this year, with him missing the Nations League, and then the poor showing on the U.S. side, and him openly complaining about it. So he decided to. I think there was a release on CBS Sports Golazo this week about him taking shots at the former players who became media members, taking shots at him, and this is what he responded.
What happened yesterday with the media? Oh my gosh! Oh, what a big story! The story.
Living under a microscope like Christian does, it's much more challenging, I think maybe than people imagine.
But it's your opportunity to explain it as it happened.
I mean, every decision he makes is scrutinized. It's insane.
No, it's not.
It's insane.
No,
in U.S. soccer, the U.S. men's national team will look to bounce back from disappointment in the Nations League with this summer's Gold Cup. But Christian Pulisic reportedly won't take part. According to multiple reports, Pulisic will take the summer to recover from a season in which he'll likely hit 50 matches for the second straight season.
My first reaction when I heard that he wasn't coming to Gold Cup, I was a little bit surprised, only because of the way things went in the Nations League. Gold Cup all of a sudden became a little bit more important. I personally, and I know this is probably unpopular and I know it is with a bunch of my old teammates, a bunch of guys that are pundits now, I was okay with it because at some point a guy needs a rest, right?
I did want to be a part of at least the two friendlies. I did speak with the coaches and I asked, and I wanted to be a part of the team in whatever capacity I could. And they said no. They said they only wanted one roster, and that's coach's decision. I fully respect that. I didn't understand it, but it is what it is. I wanted to be a part of that, but yeah, that's just the way things went, and I had to make the best decision for myself and also, in the long run for my team.
All right, well, that is copyrighted, so we have to be careful on that one. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me bring that. That's copyrighted, so we got to be careful on that. I don't want to get a strike. But yeah, it's Christian Pulisic. Stephen, we've talked about this before. Lucy Bronze played with a broken tibia in the Women's Euros. She played with a broken tibia. Can you imagine the pain of that in her for the entire month-long period? And here's Christian Pulisic saying he wants time off. I mean, that's your contrast right there. That's all I have to say. Lucy Bronze played with a broken tibia in the Women's Euros, and Christian Pulisic wanted to go off in a boat and go vacation. That's your prerogative. You want to do that, but you know what? You're leaving your team in the lurch, and I don't care what you think about what other what other players think of you. You got to find a way to play. You got to find a way to play, and everybody says, especially in the UEFA Nations League, we talked about it when Portugal won the UEFA Nations League. They said there's nothing bigger than playing for your nation. But if Christian Pulisic wants to take time off, fine, let him take time off. I just hope Pochettino just says that, you know what, we don't need you. Unfortunately, he has to bring him back. But because of the status of his. But I just wish he would have said, "Good, you're going to be off the team. You're not coming back. You're off as far as I'm concerned as a coach." But that's me. But all I have to say, Lucy Bronze played with a broken tibia throughout the entire Women's Euros. That's all I have to say.
No, there's a double-edged sword to it. You tell a player like Pulisic that you're no longer coming, then you're going to have to settle with the mediocre MLS players.
Right.
Unfortunately, which was heavily featured in the Nations League. Guys who couldn't defend, who couldn't shoot the ball, properly, et cetera, and I know I had to take that down, but obviously. Pulisic and Tim Weah, his teammate, was openly criticizing and taking shots at the former players, like you just saw there, Tony Meola. They accused them of, clout chasing or chasing likes and stuff like that, which obviously is preposterous. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Christian Pulisic is the least charismatic and most overrated athlete in this country right now. Okay, his past accomplishments about winning Champions League with Chelsea, et cetera, those things are just basically behind the rearview window. And I said this on my tweet, Ken. I don't know if you saw this. I predict that Pulisic is basically trying to milk this out as much as possible with the World Cup happening in U.S., Canada, and Mexico next year. And by the time, whenever the U.S. men's national team is eliminated, I think that Christian Pulisic is going to retire from USMNT. And so he's basically trying to milk this as much as possible, trying to buy sympathy, doing all these mediocre interviews, exposing himself as a whiny, brat as best way that I can say it. I just feel that Pulisic is basically just counting down toward the days of, him playing for the U.S. men's national team, and then basically he's going to retire as soon as the World Cup is over next year. I just think that this is his way of trying to, divert attention to him, sell the books, doing the books at 22 and then 25, 26, doing all these kinds of, interviews, trying to buy sympathy and try to, divide the country or divide the soccer fans. Who cares about the World Cup, and yet they still think that guys like him, Weah, and Weston McKennie are just basically, weak ass pussies that just can't handle criticism. That I think most of them are pretty valid in my opinion. I just hope that with the soccer calendar already beginning, and he had a pretty good game with Milan this year. To start the season opener. Good for him. But I just think that, he just needs to shut up and understand that, there is a lot riding on this. And then, for him and his teammates to openly complain, like if they're, tag teaming together to, us against the world mentality, if it goes well, great. But if it doesn't go well, or if you're not, putting the effort that you're supposed to, that we want to see, efforts being put into, we're going to call you out, and ironically, he should know that playing in a country like Italy, Germany, and then England, they're not being sympathetic towards you. If you're not doing your job, the fans will criticize you, and then so will the media. And for a guy who spent most of his career overseas, it's almost laughable that he doesn't seem to think that the U.S. media is above them, or or at least in this case, he and the rest of his USMNT crew right now, the so-called golden generation, thinks that they're above the media, or media is beneath them, depending on how you ask. So I'm just so sick of this stuff that's coming from them. And then the more they talk, the more unlikable they become, in my opinion. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, like I said, this summer we saw players who wanted to play for their country. Like I said, the Lionesses are role models. They did a great job. As I mentioned, Lucy Bronze played with a fractured tibia for 4 weeks, Stephen. Imagine the pain of playing with that. I don't think Christian Pulisic would have done that. To me, I think if he retires from playing international soccer after next year, I don't miss him. I don't think the United States is going to be fit. I don't think they'll even get out of the group, depending on where they go. If they're stuck with a very tough 3 other nations, I don't see them getting out of the group. So we'll see how that happens. I think FIFA may try, because they want the United States to do well. They may put them in a group that's going to be easier. But even if they get to the quarterfinals, their MO has been getting eliminated in the round of 16. I don't see them getting past that. So, I'd say, if I were Pochettino, I'd just say, hey, look, I'm going to suck it up. I know I'm going to have a mediocre team, but Christian Pulisic, you didn't play this summer. We don't need you. But unfortunately, his hands are tied. He's going to have to use him. He's going to have Timothy Weah. He's going to have Weston McKennie. These guys just aren't. These guys just look for themselves, Stephen. They're not team players. We saw a bunch of team players play this past summer in their country competitions, and that was great to see. But like I said, this is a situation where the United States is unfortunately stuck with these three players, and they have to use them for next season. And we're just not going to be we're just going to be dealing with another round of 16 elimination.
Yeah, the morale is very low right now, and quite frankly, I hope that after the World Cup is over, whoever takes over the USMNT, the next generation of players, I hope that they're mentally and physically tough. Probably the most likely candidates to be integrated into the next cycle. Kevin Sullivan, who is a young player, already expected to go to Man City in a couple of years. He's got an older brother, Quinn, who plays for Philadelphia. Kevin is a youth player with the same Philadelphia team. He had a good summer playing for the Man City's youth team this summer. Mathis Albert, a 16-year-old kid playing for the U19 team with Borussia Dortmund. Ironically, it's the same team that Pulisic and Gio Reyna is currently stuck with. Albert has a dual citizen with the Germany and also U.S., but it seems as though he's very inclined to play for, U.S. Unless something crazy changes. But I just hope that the new younger generation of players, look at this and say, hopefully they're not selfish, or at least they care more about representing the U.S. In a positive manner moving forward. Unfortunately, the 2026 World Cup has just kind of exposed the overall mindset of the players that we have, who are that we kind of unfortunately overrated them for being the golden generation, etc. But it looks as though they're just the total bust from a mental and physical perspective, unfortunately.
Right. Well, Stephen, unfortunately, we have to talk about these guys for another year. I'd love to see them gone, but again, like I said, Lucy Bronze played with a fractured tibia for England during the women's Euros. She's tough. I don't see Christian Pulisic doing that. If he had a hangnail, he would probably be out on the bench, not playing. So
unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. That's all I have to say.
No, that's a good way of ending this show. Thanks to 151 people joined us on this live stream. Certainly a big number than our show last week. I look forward to doing this again next Sunday. Ken, obviously the final week of the NFL preseason games are upon us. Baseball is quietly, heading toward the stretch run of the pennant race. Milwaukee finally lost today, and they're playing the Chicago Cubs 5 straight games, starting tomorrow with a doubleheader tomorrow, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I don't feel good about the Cubs right now, even though they won 2 out of 3 against the Pirates this week, but they barely scraped by. And interesting to see if the Cubs can muster up some wins and keep the pennant race a little more interesting, or if this could be the death sentence of the 2025 Chicago Cubs season by next week. So Ken, thanks again for doing this, and look forward to doing this again next Sunday night. with you as always. And thanks to 151 people who joined us. And we look forward to seeing you next Sunday night, same time, hopefully. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel that is seen on the screen over there, youtube.com/FangsBites. And also make sure to follow us on both of our accounts on X as well for our show updates moving forward.
And thank you. We just passed the 500 subscriber mark. We're at 535 subscribers on the YouTube channel. We thank a lot of that has to do since we started the live stream last year. So we thank you for doing that. We are on our way to 1,000, and when we get to 1,000, we'll celebrate that. But right now, thank you to 538 people who have subscribed to the YouTube channel. And also, if we get Taylor Swift, you're very much welcome to join us on our podcast to talk about anything you want. If you want
baby steps, but
yeah,
we're definitely going to work to get more famous guests moving forward. Yes.
But thank you so much. We thank you for watching us this week.
Thank you very much, and enjoy the upcoming week. And we hope to see you again next Sunday night on the Double 18 podcast live stream. Take care, everybody.